Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والعاقبة للمتقين، ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأولين والآخرين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وبعد. Brothers and sisters, welcome to another live edition of your program, Ask Huda. Our phone numbers beginning with area code are 002, then 0238555131 or 132. The email address is ask@huda.tv. You can also send your questions and inquiries to my Facebook page, which is Dr. Muhammad Salah Official. The first question we have today is from Sister Ramla Hayat. She says, does obeying an-nafs and ignoring Allah's command an act of shirk? Does this consider an act of shirk or not? And if it is shirk, then if I die doing this kind of shirk, will I die as a mushrik? Every time in the Quran, al-hawa, which is the low desire, is mentioned in a blameworthy context, in a context which is condemned by Allah the Almighty. Take for instance in Surah Al-Furqan, in Surah Al-Jathiyah, and in Surah Al-Qasas. In Surah Al-Furqan, chapter number 25, verse number 43, Allah the Almighty says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you seen, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one who has taken his hawa, his low desires, as his Lord? أَفَأَنْتَ تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِ وَكِيلًا. Will you have any authority over him? He's not following but his low desire. Also, in Surah Al-Jathiyah, Allah the Almighty said, chapter number 45, verse number 23, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ وَخَتَمَ عَلى سَمْعِهِ وَقَلْبِهِ وَجَعَلَ عَلى بَصَرِهِ غِشَاوَةً. Have you seen one who follows his desire so that it becomes his God? وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَى عِلْمٍ. And Allah caused him to go astray despite that he has knowledge. And Allah the Almighty put a seal over his hearing, his heart, and He put a veil over his sight. وَجَعَلَ عَلَى بَصَرِهِ غِشَاوَةً. Who else besides Allah can guide him? This person is totally misguided. In Surah Al-Kahf, Allah the Almighty ordered the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam not to follow those who follow their desires. He said, وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا. The meaning of this ayah and the rest of the answer, inshallah, after this call. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Khadija from Gambia. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Khadija. Okay, if we lose the call, please try again. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was offered by the mushrikeen, by the Meccan pagans, by the elite, the chieftains of Mecca, the people who represented the high society. They offered the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that if you want us to listen to you and attend your meeting, we cannot be seated with Ammar ibn Yasir, with these poor people, with Bilal ibn Rabah. They wear very cheap clothes and they're very poor people. We have been always their masters, their leaders. How could you equate between us and them? So if you give us a special meeting, we'll be more than happy to sit and listen to you. Before the Prophet ﷺ gave them an answer, Allah the Almighty revealed this ayah, وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ. In the previous two references, and in this reference, اتباع الهوى, following the one's desire, low desire, represents a major shirk. an act of disbelief. Then in Surah Al-Qasas, Allah the Almighty says in ayah number 50, فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكَ فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّمَا يَتَّبِعُونَ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَمَنْ أَضَلُّ مِمَّنِ اتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ بِغَيْرِ هُدًى مِّنَ اللَّهِ. Which means, and after all, after he presented the reference, the book from Allah to them, because they demanded a book, you presented a book to them, and it came to verify the authenticity of the previous revelations, the Torah and the Gospel. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَجِيبُوا لَكَ. If they do not answer you, then know that they are only following their low desires. And who is more astray than one who follows his low desire? إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Most verily, Allah guides not the wrongdoers. In these references and more, but that is sufficient now, we quoted 4 references, alhamdulillah wa shukrullah, the one, Surah Al-Furqan, Al-Jasiyah, Al-Qasas, and Surah Al-Kahf. Al-Hawa is actually taken as a deity instead of Allah. That happens when the person gives precedence to what his own desire commands him to do, even with regards to the concept of worshiping Allah the Almighty. So he dismisses the fact that there is God. He dismisses the fact that God has the right to be worshipped. He dismisses the fact that God is the only creator and is the only one who's worthy of worship. And then he follows his desire by worshipping whatever, by associating partners to Allah in worship, by disbelieving in the presence of God altogether, by being agnostic or an atheist or whatever. So in this case, he has taken his hawa, his low desire, as his God. That's shirk. But a person who recognizes the presence of Allah, a person who says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, a person who prays, and he follows his worldly desires with regards to sinning, any kind of sin, is not a mushrik. Any kind of sin other than shirk. And you find some people, they're very weak when it comes to some sins. A person who prays, but he hangs out with girls. A person who prays, and maybe he is involved in backbiting. That's hawa. When you're sitting and you're talking about others, people like that. Some people desire that. They love to talk about others. They love to talk bad about others in their absence. So that's following the hawa. That's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, تُعْرَضُ الْفِتَنُ عَلَى الْقُلُوبِ عَرْضَ الْحَصِيرِ عُودًا عُودًا. Fitan, the trials which represent sins, the hearts will be exposed to those trials one after another. It's like a mat, and you're flipping over a mat. عُودًا عُودًا. The mat has sticks, one after another. You cannot skip a single one of them, one by one. فأيما قلب أشربها نكتت فيه نكتة سوداء. So if one of these trials afflict the person and he fails it, fitna of women, fitna of wealth, fitna of fame, the trial of liking to be known, liking to be admired by people, whatever kind of trial. If the person fails this trial, it leaves a black dot over his heart. If he recognizes that he has committed a sin and he rushes to seek forgiveness, the black dot will be removed and the heart will remain clean. If he neglects it, then another fitna, the heart will be exposed to it, and he absorbs it like a sponge. He's absorbing the fitan, the trials. By failing this trial, it will leave another dot and another black dot until the heart will be completely darkened. Once the heart is completely darkened, it will become as what the Prophet ﷺ said, كَالْكُوزِ مُجَخِّيَةٍ, like a cup which is turned upside down. What is the benefit of a cup that is turned upside down? I remember when I used to wash the dishes for my mother, or even now for my mother, I was taught that when you wash a cup, you need to turn it upside down. Why? So that it will dry up, it will drain all the water. So when you come to use it, it doesn't have any remains of the water of washing the cup or the plate. Which means as long as the cup is turned upside down, it's of no use. To fill it up, you need to pour it upright, right? The heart, which is completely absorbed by the fitan, and it has completely darkened as a result of absorbing the sins and being in love with them, desiring them. The Prophet ﷺ said about this heart, كالكوز مجخية لا يعرف معروفا ولا ينكر منكرا إلا ما أشرب هواه. When it comes to recognizing what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is evil, he would not recognize what is good and what is bad as it's bad. Rather, only what his hawa desires, this is good. And if his hawa doesn't desire, it's evil. Have nothing to do with the divine legislation. And this is the worst case scenario. Because in this case, the person's heart is pronounced dead. Is pronounced dead. If the person still recognizes the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when it comes to belief, he is a true believer in Allah the Almighty. When it comes to the act of legislation, he believes that only Allah the Almighty has the right to legislate, then he's a believer. And we all commit sins, whether we repent and we ask forgiveness and those sins are forgiven or not. Recently, in some Muslim countries, every now and then we hear some people are demanding we need to give the right to women so that they get the same inheritance like a man. They don't see the full picture. They don't understand the divine law with regards to inheritance. And furthermore, they don't understand that changing the divine law is an act of disbelief. Yes, indeed, it's an act of disbelief. If you don't know, ask. We'll be more than happy to educate you, where you will know that there are only few cases where a male would inherit double the female's inheritance. And there are many other cases where they are treated equally. And there are many other cases where women would inherit more than men. And there are some cases that only women would get to inherit and men will be blocked. That's a divine law. But to dismiss all of that and say that we should cancel that, and now we are in a modern age, so you're objecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is exactly أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ وَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ. So he has taken his hawa as his God. It's his hawa, it's his nafs, it's his low desire which commands him what to do, even if it comes in clear contradiction with the concept of al-uluhiyyah, the lordship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and having the right to be worshipped alone. So we have to distinguish between, sometimes you desire to do something, every now and then somebody may get to watch a movie, see something which is forbidden, or listen to something which is forbidden. This is following the hawa. Remember what Imra'atul Aziz, the first lady in Egypt, said when she came to confess her sin. She said, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي in Surah Yusuf, إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. I'm not claiming that I'm innocent. I'm a sinner. I committed a sin. I confess. And indeed, one's soul is inclined into evil by nature, except for those whom Allah have mercy on. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be amongst them, so that Allah will protect us against following our whims and desires. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Khadija from Gambia, welcome to the program. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah?
When are the 2 forbidden times to pray?
Okay.
And also, what time does the person pray? You know, the 2 rakats and the other 2 rakats before Zuhr. What time can you pray that? When it's Zuhr or before?
Okay.
I'm kind of confused on that.
Okay.
And also, I know a person who excessively releases gas often, but when she wants to pray, she has to like rush a little bit so that the gas doesn't release, even though she already made wudu. What is the ruling on that?
Okay.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome, Khadija from Gambia. There are 3 times every day. During those times, it is disliked to pray any nawafil. Any prayer does not have a specific reason. مطلق النفل, general nawafil. Those times, as the Prophet ﷺ said and ordered in the hadith, that when the sun is in the middle of its zenith until it moves away, moves down, goes west from its zenith, that is approximately 15 minutes before Dhuhr time. So if in your country you look in the calendar and Dhuhr is at 12, then at 11:45 you should not be praying any nawafil, and that should be the last time for praying duha as well. Okay, let me continue after this call. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Fatima, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Ask Huda.
Wa alaikum salam.
Go ahead.
How are you, Sheikh?
I'm doing fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking, Fatima.
Sheikh, I have this one question. What's your ruling on vaginal discharges? Is it valid during the prayer?
Okay, thank you. Barakallahu fiki. Okay, got your question. Do you have any other questions?
All right. No, thank you, Sheikh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Barakallahu fiki. Now, so the first time which is disliked to pray any general nawafil or a prayer that doesn't have a specific reason, we say it 15 minutes before the dhuhr time. And the second time is between Asr, after you pray Asr, and until sunset. And the third time is after you pray Fajr and until 15 minutes past sunrise. With regards to the second and the third time, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the reason behind disliking the prayers during this time, the nawafil, because he said the sun rises and sets between the 2 horns of Satan. The sun doesn't do that willingly, but a shaitan appears to his worshippers when the sun is rising and when the sun sets, and he stands in between so that his horns will be like engulfing the image of the sun. Those who worship sun and those who worship Satan, they bow down to them during this time. So it is disliked to pray a prayer which does not have a specific reason during this time, in order not to copy or imitate or be similar to the pagans, those who worship during these times. As far as the noon time, it is disliked to pray because that is the time during which an-nar tustajjar, which the hellfire is heated up most. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said in this regard. I'd like to explain what is the meaning of mutlaq al-nafl, which you're not supposed to pray during this time. There are 2 categories of nawafil. There is a nafila, excuse me, sunnah, which has a specific reason. Whether a prayer that is prescribed before or after the fard prayers. They are also categorized into emphatic and non-emphatic sunnah. You mentioned some of them. You said that the 4 rak'ahs, the 2 or the 4 rak'ahs before dhuhr. When do we pray them? Any emphatic sunnah before the prayer may be prayed after adhan and until iqamah. And you cannot pray any sunnah which is prescribed for any fard before the adhan has been called. No. Like you're in a hurry, you cannot just pray sunnah now and after adhan. Well, you cannot pray the sunnah before the time has entered, like the fard exactly. And the sunnah after is extended until the time of the next prayer is due. Sometimes a person gets busy, sometimes a person forgets about the sunnah after the prayer. Can I make it up? In the hadith of Salama, may Allah be pleased with her, she said that she have seen the Prophet ﷺ once praying after Asr. And as we just discussed earlier, praying between Asr and Maghrib, general nawafil, a prayer which has no specific reason, is disliked. She said, O Prophet of Allah, I thought you have forbidden us against praying during this time. He said, this prayer which I'm offering, it was the sunnah of Dhuhr prayer. I was caught up with some business, I got busy, and I didn't get to pray them. So he was making up the missed sunnah. That is permissible. Similarly, when you enter the masjid during this time, should you pray Tahiyatul Masjid, or you should sit down because it is disliked to pray? That's a prayer that has a specific reason. So you should not sit down before praying the greeting of the masjid during these times. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Muhammad from the KSA.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ask Wal Akhi Muhammad.
I have got some small questions.
Yeah?
First one, Janaza prayer.
Mm-hmm.
If I join the Janaza prayer after second takbir, so shall I make a exit with the Imam, or I have to make two takbir?
Okay. Any other questions?
Second question, Juma khutbah.
Yeah?
What I know that during the khutbah we don't have to talk or say anything during the khutbah. But usually in the second part of the khutbah, where Imam is making a dua, the people are raising their hand and say Ameen. Is it allowed, or we have to be restricted?
Okay.
And one more is there, if
Yeah.
you allow me.
Yeah, sure.
People are, due to some illness or sickness, they are not able to make sujda on the ground, or they are using the chair. So during the ruku, they just bend down and keep their hand. This is okay. But during for the sijda, some people I have seen, they extended their hand. They are not keeping on their leg.
I know exactly
Yes.
what you mean. Yes.
Yes, it is strange. So shall we rectify them, or what is the correct one?
Okay. Got your
Thank you.
question. You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
Jazakallah khairan, Brother Muhammad. So now, Khadija, I answered two of your questions, the dislike times to pray any general nawafil, and we explained the difference between the general nawafil and the prayer that has a specific reason, and I give two examples of the emphatic and non-emphatic sunnah, and making the messed up sunnah. And also praying Tahiyatul Masjid. It is prescribed even during Awqatul Karaha, the times which is disliked to pray general nawafil. Also with regards to the sunnah before Dhuhr, the 4 rak'ahs, 2 by 2. Once you hear the adhan, now you can start praying your sunnah. Your third question about a person who frequently breaks wind, and it's hard to control that. What does he or she should do during the prayer? By analogy to the person who is experiencing or suffering from urine incontinence, they are regularly dripping urine drops. In this case, it is prescribed to perform wudu after the time of the prayer has entered. Then you can pray as much sunnah, like the sunnah before the prayer, and the fard prayer, and the sunnah after the prayer, and general nawafil until the following prayer time. You pray Dhuhr now with all the relating nawafil before and after with this wudu. Even if you're breaking wind while praying 10 times, there is no blame upon you. That is because Allah the Almighty says in Surah At-Taghabun, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah and keep your duty to Him as much as you can afford. And this is how much I can afford. You know, I cannot just keep going back and forth to the bathroom because I keep breaking wind. Some people lost control over the sphincter, so they keep dripping urine. Go ahead, but you gotta make wudu after the prayer time has entered. That, if this case is frequent and it is diagnosed as some chronic ailment. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Asia from the KSA.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Sheikh, I have one question.
Yes.
Yes, in different part of the world, in different parts of the world, there are people, there are, hello, can you hear, Sheikh?
Yes, I hear you, Sister Asia. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are many people, there are many monuments and some places where the statues of the people have been made, some celebrities or some historical people or something. People, they go and visit those places and they remove the photographs along with them. Is this permissible?
Okay.
Jazakallah.
Wajazakum. Thank you, Sister Asia. Sister Fatima, who asked about the vaginal discharge. Like what I answered Sister Khadija's question about the frequently breaking wind, or like the urine incontinence. The person in this case is required to perform wudu for each fard prayer. Once the prayer time has entered, even if the discharge is happening continuously, because that is something that you cannot control. But the wudu must be performed after the prayer time has entered, which allows you to pray the fard prayer of this time and all the relating nawafil. Brother Muhammad from the KSA asked about Salatul Janaza and if you came late. I'm glad you asked this question because, again, in Hajj, I've noticed that a lot of people are negligent of the magnificent word of praying Janaza. So once they finish the prayer, some start their sunnah immediately, even though they heard the mu'adhin is announcing that there will be a funeral prayer. So they start their sunnah, which means that they won't be able to attend the Janaza prayer with us. Others will take advantage that people are waiting for the funeral prayer and they will take off, maybe to beat the traffic, maybe for any other reason. But I personally figured that most of those people are negligent of the magnificent word which Allah the Almighty has promised for attending a single funeral prayer. That's why they take it easy and leave, because they don't know how to pray Janazah. And they are ashamed to ask, like, I'm an old man, how am I supposed to ask? And ask whom? So it is our duty, whether a collective duty or an individual duty, like you're sitting in the masjid and you see somebody is fixing to leave or is about to start his sunnah prayer, wait, pray Janazah. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever attends a funeral prayer, Allah will grant him a reward, a qintar of good deeds, a mountain of good deeds for attending the funeral prayer, and another one for following the funeral to the burial place. And it is not chemistry, it's very simple. Allahu Akbar. You recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Allahu Akbar. You send the peace and the blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. To the end, innaka hamidun majid. Allahu Akbar, the third takbir. Obviously, you don't raise your voice in the takbir, only the Imam does. You send invocations, you invoke Allah to bless the dead person, to forgive him or her or them their sins. You don't know who are they. That's why I say, Allahumma aghfir liman hadara min amwati al-muslimin. O Allah, forgive all the sins of those who are present currently that we're offering the funeral prayer for them. Have mercy on them, make their graves gardens of paradise, and so on. Then after the fourth takbir, it is short, where you say, Allahumma la tahrimna ajrahum, wa la taftinna ba'dahum, waghfir lana wa lahum. If you don't know how to say it, oh Allah, forgive me my sins. Then you make taslim. Sometimes the Imam makes taslim to the right and to the left, and sometimes, like in the harams, make taslim only to the right. Following the Imam in these 3 to 4 minutes secures you a word which is similar to a qintar or a mountain of good deeds. Then keep in mind that if this prayer is offered in the haram, I read against one of the doors of Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, it says, صلاة في مسجدي هذا أفضل من ألف صلاة فيما سواه إلا المسجد الحرام. The hadith is a sound hadith collected by Imam Bukhari, narrated by Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. A single prayer, he did not specify a fard namaz, mandatory or voluntary, emphatic or non-emphatic sunnah, night prayer or duha, or a funeral prayer, any salah, anonymous. Salatun fi masjidi hada, any prayer that you offer in my masjid is better than 1,000 prayer that you may offer anywhere else except in al-Masjid al-Haram and Mecca, because in Mecca, in al-Masjid al-Haram, each prayer is better than 100,000 prayer. To be continued, inshallah, after we take a quick short break. Inshallah, I'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk.
I could agree that institutional racism does exist, and to be precise, we should define institutional racism, and that is hidden or non-apparent racism within an organization or an institution. I have witnessed it, me being half Saudi. My last name is Arab, so when I moved to the States back in 2002, after the incidents of 9/11, I did face some racism.
I think it can be what you do, but in the sense of without thinking. The things you do naturally without having to stop and think, that just come out.
Okay.
You know, this innate nature of you, and how you think, and and the way you see things.
We can get your insights on the two different countries, inshallah, further on into this conversation. Mamadou, if I can come to you, what's your thoughts on institutional racism, especially in the UK? Do you think it's really prevalent there?
The way we live, it's kind of a combination of two things: our language, and then what we believe in. So if we have got a language without believing in something, so it will be useless. So we have to get like both things going together.
I'm calling your name, oh Allah.
Huda TV strives to remain the premier English language Islamic channel in the world, and to do so, we need your input. Send us your thoughts, suggestions and feedback through email at feedback@hoda.tv. Huda TV is committed to helping others, so why not help Huda TV share the message of Islam worldwide? Take part in helping spread the authentic message of Islam based on the Quran and the Sunnah throughout the world by sponsoring Huda TV. Don't miss this unique opportunity to gain the reward from Allah.
Some way, and watching her, observing her for some time. And in night, he would go and attack caravans, Hajj caravans, travelers, and he would strip them of their property and their wealth and their belongings. He was notorious to the extent that a lot of the caravans most of the time would change route to avoid that area. One night he climbs up the wall of the house of that girl that he loves, and he sneaks into the house, and as he was making his way into the house, someone was praying Qiyam al-Layl. Someone was standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and praying at night alone, reciting the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. Hasn't the time come yet for the believers that their hearts pay heed and feel humility to the words of Allah? Hasn't that time come yet? And the words shook him and grabbed his heart, and he was moved deep inside. It hit a chord. He started thinking about these words, and he forgot the main reason why he came to this house. And the only response that was on his tongue, his spontaneous response, was Bala ya Rabbi qad an. Indeed, my Lord, the time has come. And that moment he changed. So he went out of his house, roaming aimlessly, contemplating his life, contemplating his past, his behavior, his reputation, and his future, and his relationship with Allah. He ended up with a group of people who gathered together, and they lit a fire, and they were travelers, strangers. He asked their permission to join them. He sat with them, and they were disputing whether to spend the night there or to carry on their journey. And one of them said, we should stay here because there's that famous thief, that famous robber. That's his area, and if we carry on traveling, he might jump on us, and we'll be in trouble. So let's spend the night here, then we will set off in the morning. And the name they mentioned, the name of that thief, was this very person. It made him think to himself, what did I do that people fear me that much? What kind of curse I have become to you?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. And a quick reminder with our phone numbers in the beginning of this segment: area code 002, then 023855 131 or 132. All right, we have the first question from Brother Muhammad. It was about Salatul Janazah. I began before the break to speak about the significance of Salatul Janazah and the importance of attending the funeral prayer and how to pray the funeral prayer. His question was, what if I join the Imam late? How am I supposed to make up the missed takbirat? There are no raka'at. It's only 4 takbirat, as I explained earlier. Some people, because the mu'adhin says Salatul Janazah yarhamukumullah, and it's taken so long, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so people decide to start their sunnah. And subhanAllah, when they start their sunnah, before making taslim, he starts the funeral prayer. So they hurry, they finish the sunnah, and they join while the imam is in the second or third rak'ah. Third of takbir. Or people came late, and by the time they join in, the imam is already in the third takbir. We said after the third takbir, what does the imam and the followers recite? After the third takbir, you make dua for the dead. You say, oh Allah, have mercy on them, descend them from their sins as far as the distance between the east and the west, wash them from their sins with water, with ice, with dough, and this beautiful supplication. Whether it is the second takbir or the third takbir or the fourth takbir of the imam, forget about the number of the takbir that the imam is doing. For you as a follower, that is your first takbir. So you start counting from the moment you join and you say Allahu Akbar. The imam will be making dua for the dead people and the followers, but you will be reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. Why? Because this is your first segment in the salah. Then when he says Allahu Akbar, and he's making dua, Allahumma la tahrimna ajrahum wa la taftinna ba'dahum, assalamu alaikum, you are making Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad to the end. He said assalamu alaikum, you continue on your own, the third and the fourth takbir. Why? Where did he get this from? In the sound hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and this hadith is a reference, is a cornerstone in the prescription of making up the missed rak'ahs in the prayer, in the congregational prayer, or also takbirat in the funeral prayer. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إذا أتيتم الصلاة فأتوها وأنتم تمشون وعليكم السكينة ولا تأتوها وأنتم تسعون فما أدركتم فصلوا وما فاتكم فأتموا. That is a more sound narration, which means when you come to the prayer, you should come walking with tranquility. You should not hasten, you should not rush, you should not jog or walk briskly, so that when you attend the prayer, you will have khushu', you will not be gasping and trying to catch your breath because you've been jogging. And whatever you attend with the imam, that is your first part. فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا. You found the Imam ruku', join in a ruku'. You find him in sujood, sit down and make sujood with him. That's obviously after making the beginning takbir, takbiratul ihram, Allahu Akbar. Then another takbir to go either for ruku' or for sujood. Some people, when they find the Imam in prostration, they say to themselves, I lost the rak'ah anyway, so why bother? They keep standing. You see them in the line, standing. Why? Waiting for the Imam to rise up in order to join the prayer from the beginning of the second rak'ah or the following rak'ah. That is not right. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, فَمَا أَدْرَكْتُمْ فَصَلُّوا. Whichever part of the prayer you attend, offer the prayer. فَصَلُّوا وَمَا فَاتَكُمْ فَأَتِمُّوا. And whatever you have missed, then make it up. What did he say? Make it up means uqdu. Like in فَأَتِمُّوا, he said complete, continue. That's why there is a major difference between Imam Abu Hanifa and the Jumhur. According to the sound narration, it says فَأَتِمُّ يعني complete, continue, which means your first takbir is the first takbir of the salah for you, whether it was the second, third, or fourth for the Imam. But you must continue. You make 4 takbirat, not 3, not 2. Some people, they join the Imam in the second or third takbir and they make taslim with him. They have not completed their prayer yet. It is similar to praying any prayer. Assalamu alaikum. Sister Rayyan from the USA.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, I had a question in your Garden of the Pious the last time, and the line was disconnected. So I just want to tell you the situation about, someone's husband he used to pray only Fridays. Sometimes he says, Alhamdulillah, Bismillah, he believes in God, but sometimes he gets very angry. Sometimes I pray and he gets so mad and, angry and discouraging me not to pray, not to go to mosque, and for the kids too. And this is affecting the life of the kids.
You mean he gets mad when you pray?
Yeah.
Why?
So sometimes
Isn't he Muslim?
He is, but sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I hide in the room to pray.
You hide to pray?
Yeah, because when he see me praying, he gets angry.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah. May Allah have mercy on you. May Allah guide him. May Allah guide him and may Allah have mercy on him.
He's not a bad person, brother, he's not a bad person, but sometimes he gets so, I don't know, is it a magic or what? And the kids are going, in America, they are going, I'm trying, I'm praying, I'm making
How long
dua.
this been happening?
It's been happening for since he's in America, 10 years now.
And before, whenever he was in Pakistan, he was okay?
He was just praying Fridays.
Okay, so there is a history of negligence of the prayer. Right?
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes?
Yeah, there is a history, an old history of neglecting the prayer.
Exactly. His family background is not like that. Nobody prays except his father. He used to tell them to pray, but nobody did, and the whole family was like that. And now my kids are also like that. I'm trying to, they know good and bad, but they don't pray. They don't do good things, And sometimes my husband, he hides my thing so that I don't pray. He doesn't let me go to the dars or masjid, and if I go, he gets mad and angry. So sometimes I just leave everything.
Okay. Jazakumullahu khairan.
Just guide me what to do.
Yeah,
Is it
I will,
magic
inshallah.
or what?
I will, inshallah. And you shouldn't be crying because you should be strong enough to make a decision, a very decisive decision. Inshallah, I'll help you to make the decision in a little bit. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Next, please.
Welcome, sir.
So, Hadi from the USA. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah?
I have a question. My grandmother, she says that every time she gets in a car, she recites like the ayah لَقَدْ جَاءَ to the end, like 3 times. And then she says if you recite it in the morning, I don't know how many times, like if you're supposed to die on that day, Allah will make it.
What is the ayah again, Hadi?
Huh?
What is the ayah?
لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ. I think it's that one.
Okay, the ayah before the last of Surah At-Tawbah. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one. Okay.
Yeah. She says that if you recite it, if you're supposed to die that day, Allah will give you an extra day.
Oh,
and
really?
She also recites Surah Yasin if you have like a problem. If she has a problem, she recites Surah Yasin 41 times.
Okay, so
And
what you're saying now, what you're saying is that if you, this is what she says. She says that if you recite this ayah, and if you're supposed to die on that day, Allah will give you an extra day.
Yeah, and if you recite Surah Yasin 41 times,
Don't listen to your grandma anymore. Don't listen to grandma in this regard.
But she's not listening. She says she wants to hear it from you.
Okay, okay. Tell her that I love her so much, but there is no such thing. Rather, and where are you guys originally from?
She is from Gambia.
Gambia, okay. So, and tell her that in the Quran there are many references which actually say the opposite. Like ayah number 4 of Surah Nuh alayhi salam. إن أجل الله إذا جاء لا يؤخر لو كنتم تعلمون. Once the due term is due, once it comes, it will not be postponed. لكل أجل كتاب فإذا جاء أجلهم لا يستأخرون ساعة ولا يستقدمون. Every person has a fixed term. Once the term is due, no one will be postponed, not even for a moment. Or nor will he die a moment before his due term. So if you keep reciting the whole Quran, it will not give you an extra moment in your life. If every day you recite what you said so many times. As a matter of fact, this is the first time to learn about the verses of reciting this ayah before the last of Surah At-Tawbah. It's a great ayah, one of the 6,000 plus ayahs of the Quran. But what you said has no reference whatsoever. And if you think that by reciting that will give you an extra day, that is not true whatsoever. I can give you a list of supplications to recite in the morning and in the evening, and what to recite when you ride your car or any ride, and the verses of these supplications. Or I can guide you to download an app about the fortress of the Muslim on your phone, so that you can recite this adhkar on a daily basis in the morning and the evening. Or you purchase this little book, which is published by Dar es-Salam publication. It's called The Fortress of the Muslim, or Husn al-Muslim. It's a beautiful little booklet. Many times I actually advise the viewers to have this booklet in their pockets and to distribute it, because a dhikr is like a shield for a believer. And Allah ordered us to remember Him during the day and the night, morning and evening. So it contains some of these sound supplications to be recited at fixed times and so on. But this one, tell your grandma, no. And do not circulate this statement anymore, because we have to be careful. Even if you think it won't hurt, no, it will hurt. What would it do? It will do that the Prophet ﷺ said, من كذب علي متعمدا فليتبوأ مقعده من النار. Let whoever forges a lie against me deliberately, let him expect his seat in hellfire. Sister Rayyan from the USA, Wallahi, I should have answered your question before we wrap it up. Let me give a brief answer right now, a general answer. If a person does not pray and he refuses to pray, set aside now that he forbids his wife from praying, he forbids his kids from praying, because this is like a very advanced stage. When the wife has to hide in order to pray, that's a very advanced stage. Then A person who chooses not to pray, he chooses not to be a Muslim. And a wife who lives with a person who doesn't pray and doesn't want to pray, and he orders his family not to pray, should find a way out. A way out after giving him an ultimatum. I'm giving a general advice, what the fuqaha said in this regard. Are you Muslim or you're not? Yeah, I'm a Muslim. Why don't you pray? I'm just busy. I pray every once in a while. I pray on Jumu'ah. Okay, we keep advising you to pray. If he refuses to pray, then he will be pronounced as a non-Muslim. Okay, and his wife is not supposed to stay with him. Now we're talking about a very complicated case, and it has nothing to do with being in the United States. I've known a lot of people who used not to pray in their countries, people who used not to pray in Egypt, people who never prayed in Palestine, people who never prayed in Pakistan. And when they came to the United States, around the Muslim community, around the beautiful gathering in our Islamic centers, they started praying, they started reading Quran for the first time in their lives. I know many cases like that. You cannot blame it on living in the United States. No, you cannot blame it on living. The person has the willingness to go astray. You know, he can be lazy, and you're blameworthy in this case. But to be very extreme, and you say, and you order your kids, your wife, not to pray, this is very extreme. You're confiscating the rights. And in this case, it is absolutely your duty to give him the ultimatum. It's either you to pray or I'm out. Because you cannot confiscate my right to pray too. This is really extreme. What I mentioned earlier is a general advice with regards to the couple. Whenever one of them isn't praying, this is what the fuqaha talked about. I'm not giving or confessing my personal view, because when it comes to the ahkam, I do not express my personal view. I just quote and remind the views of the scholars in this regard. I take advantage of you're asking this question to make dua for you and for your husband. May Allah guide him. May Allah bring him back to his deen, because by refusing not to pray, by ordering people not to pray, he chooses a very dangerous choice to distance himself from the deen. May Allah guide all of us what is best, brothers and sisters. By that we come to the end of today's edition of your program, Ask Huda. Until next time, I leave you all in the care of Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
Allah is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance.